council agenda, and each person has 3 minutes to speak. So I will read the names from the blue card and then follow online also. So first in person is Wyvani Nixon.
I would like to talk about the feral cat problem in Modesto. When you call and you complain, they tell you that they're free-roaming animals, but when you have 30 cats pooping in your yard and you don't even own a cat, it becomes a very big issue, which nothing is being done about. They have rules against people feeding animals, but they're not enforced. These need to be aggressively enforced, and also that you need to come up with a better spay-neuter clinic, which what we have is becoming very minimalized. And cats aren't free-roaming animals. If there's an issue out there that you had with rats or you had with squirrels, you euthanize them, and euthanasia should not be taken off the record. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are very passionate about it. A lot of people do a lot of stuff to do their best about it. But the situation is out of control. And those of us who have to live with 30 cats pooping in our yard are not, you can't be happy about that. And that's about all I got to say.
All right, thank you for your comments this evening. Next online, I see Samsung.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm calling in for the same reason I've called in. I can't count how many times now. Usually people, when they feel like something needs to be done, they do something. I'm gonna keep doing that, and I'm calling on behalf of Paul Chavez Jr. that was murdered by Officer Samuel Muncie. I just want to say that all of you up there are unscrupulous and don't care about the people of Modesto.
Please turn that down where we can't hear it so well out here.
I said everybody on that board is unscrupulous. They don't care about the people of Modesto. They don't care about what happens in the city limits of Modesto. They care about padding their pockets, and it's absolutely insane. You guys all suck, and that's all I gotta say. Screw you guys.
Next in person, Michael Ketchum.
Hello, I'm want to express my views on the cat issue too. It's really getting out of hand. I've lived in the same house for 45 years, never had this problem until the last maybe 2 years, but I spend 10-15 minutes out there with a shovel cleaning it all off my front lawn before I can even mow, and you smell it everywhere. They'll spray my security doors. I gotta get those hosed down, and it's just really bad. And I really got mad at them last summer or spring. I've got some big pine trees in the backyard, and there's always a lot of dove nesting up in there, which I enjoy, watching the little ones learn to fly and everything. Well, one day I walked out there, and there's nothing but feathers from fence to fence, and there hasn't been. The dove are just now starting to come back. I pruned all the branches to where the cats don't want to climb all the way up the tree. They get up on the roof of my garage and then jump onto the tree branch, but they can't do that anymore. But at any rate, the TNR, it's so out of control now that TNR, the cats are all going to outlive me anyhow, you know, and need to look at some other options. Like I say, I've never had this problem before, and I don't know how many people remember, used to have the night deposit out at the pound, you know, and you didn't see a lot of stray cats back then. But anyhow, I don't know if there's any plans being made to alleviate, but need to do something. Thank you for your time.
Mayor, can I ask what area he lives in?
Okay, sure.
Where do you live? What area?
Over by Carver and Orangeburg.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and there's another, I was stopped in that Farmer Boys hamburger place, the drive up one night, and as I'm sitting at the window waiting for my order, I could see 6 kittens playing and 4 or 5 adult cats out, you know, between their place and whatever it is next to them, but they're everywhere. Too many.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ivan Valencia is in the back from the police department. He might be able to help you with some referral services. All right. I do not see any hands raised online. So next in person, James Costello. Welcome.
Thank you. James Costello from the Modesto Citizens Action Group, and as many of you know, we've been lobbying every one of you and every supervisor to consider adopting a safe sleeping proposal for the city of Modesto. We've also submitted multiple plans and to each one of you over time, as well as to the supervisors, so they were well informed about what we've been doing. And other cities are addressing this problem, and it looks like the city of Modesto isn't doing anything about this. Now, 3 of your members have issued public statements and were interviewed by the Bee supporting this idea. And we just heard recently that Mr. Lopez had ordered city staff to study this issue. Now, if that's, we haven't verified that, but if that's true, then that's great. But it doesn't help you to keep it a secret when that kind of stuff is happening. And because the public thinks the council's not doing anything about this problem that continues to occur for that particular group of people we've been addressing. One thing I would not want to hear anymore about is the failure of Moe's. Moe's failed in a lot of ways. Well, what you do is you take the failures, and you learn from them, and which other cities are doing. So safe sleeping can work if the proper situations are created to make it work. Now, one of the things I was told, well, Rosa's in Washington, I believe, and one thing I would ask of her is to lobby for the Unhoused Bill of Rights that's now in Congress, and it's a national problem, as you all know, and the cities and counties really don't have enough resources to deal with it. Well, there's a bill in Congress now that will help that, pump billions of dollars into the cities and counties to actually try to do something. So I would hope that Mrs. Coochie-Brayton would lobby for that or talk to somebody about that. So it's time to do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Next online is Brittany Chavez. Are you able to unmute? All right, Brittany, we cannot hear you at this point, so we'll go to the next person in person and then come back to you. Diane Cruzy?
Sitting too long. Diane Cruzy, Modesto, and I have emailed all of you, and the reason is, well, you know what the reason is, the homeless. And I'm here because everybody wants to kick the can down the road, and the result is of what you've got now. And if you can't continue to kick it, it's not going to get any better. Now, I know it's been referred to Moe's as being a terrible thing. Well, you know, I don't think there was a whole lot of planning on that. If there was, they forgot that some of those folks were camping on inclines. Don't even refer to that, because that definitely was not a good example. But if you have safe parking, where now the rules are making it very hard for people to actually park there. If you don't have a registration, you can't. It has to be up to date. They don't have money, folks. So, you know, and same thing with gas. 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., no gas. I mean, if they have to move, where do they move to? Somebody else, someplace else, just like the cats. And, there's no services in the Moe's either. And that's what the safe sleeping would be for. If you could get 50 people in an area that is secure, and you plan ahead, and the gentleman there is not too happy about this, I can tell. You have to, if people can't sleep at night, there's a real problem. And they can't, and they don't have a choice. And like the other night when we had the thunder and lightning and the water pouring down, guess where they were? Underneath all that water. And they don't have a choice. So I wish you would give them a choice, and give us and the city and the county, understand that if you don't have a pilot and you don't try, and if you don't learn from your mistakes, like Moe's and some of them, and other places, you'll never get anywhere. And you can't just all shove them into a house, because some of those folks, they don't want anything to do with the roof. And some of them are mentally ill, there's no doubt about it. And so I'm here because I figure that people have to talk about it, because if you don't, nothing's ever going to happen. And you can't ignore it, because it's just going to keep getting bigger. And I know this doesn't make anybody very happy, and it certainly doesn't make me very happy to know. I mean, I saw a lady in Moe's that was in a hospital bed, and she couldn't get out of it. It was one of those kinds that moves around. And there are people out there that are still doing things like that out there, and homeless. And it's just not something that we should be very proud of, let me tell you. And thank you very much, and goodbye.
Welcome. Next, Brittany Chavez.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm the wife of Paul David Chavez Jr., and I'm calling in on behalf of my husband, who was wrongfully tased by Sergio Valencia, murdered by Samuel Muncie, and covered up by the chief of police, Gillespie, and his sergeant that day. See, everything that I've seen is what I saw. So I don't understand if I and other members of the community in the neighborhood saw what I saw and clearly state that that was unjustified. How many people that come across my block to stop anybody who's out here to look at his memorial and ask who he was to me, and that they seen the video and that it was so, I won't say the word, but we'll say it starts with F and it ends up with D, up. So I don't understand why there's still murderers going around with guns, and this isn't their first time. They continue to murder. How many times is it going to take? Are you going to have another La Matia? 5, 6, 7, 8 times? A murderer is a murderer. So why is murder to be justified? They were not in harm's way. Nothing was being done to them. It was comply or die. That's all you can see. Yet, y'all want to sit there and get so upset by the things that I say and the things that I do. Because I'm upset. You don't understand what made me me. I was never like this. I was never this person. Y'all paid me to become this person. I had to be this person. I had to climb out of a freaking hole, out of a freaking corner, and come up and say, you know what? Wrong is wrong and right is right. And if I gotta stand up to all of you, I will freaking do it. And I will do it over and over and over again. Show my boys and my family that I don't care. I will stand up for what is right. Your justice system failed again, and it continues to fail, and it'll always continue to fail until there's actual real life things that are actually being done. But if you can't foresee them to be done, then you guys are in the wrong position. You do not deserve that seat. You do not deserve the position. You do not deserve to be called anything that you are. You took the life. That's not right. Nowhere in the Bible says it's okay to take the life. Kind of a little strange. I haven't heard from your guys' pastor. There's that. But even with that being said, I want to know what y'all's going to do about it. Are you doing anything? Are you helping justice to be served anywhere? Because I already heard about what was going on with your four together and all the CRB, whatever that is. It's a joke. Because you already have your officers going in there and demanding what they are asking and expect. Well, how are we supposed to move forward if you still have them telling us what we are supposed to do, what they are supposed to do? No. It's not their job. See, we got that, so that way they couldn't do that.
So what
are you guys going to do about that part
you've
then?
exceeded your time limit, so
Okay,
please finish.
A place for my people to lay their heads, a place I don't have to worry about them when I lay my head down at night. Modesto Bee had an article recently highlighting Mr. Bavaro, Mr. Ricky, Mr. Alvarez being on board with safe camping. You three are my heroes. Anybody that puts human life first and foremost is a hero. The excuses some of you have in that article are ridiculous and just that, excuses. We must try, we have no choice, or do you have a better idea? We must try for the elderly, weak, frail, addicts, and sick. We must try for our neighbors, local businesses, community, and city. We have to start somewhere, sometime. And the longer you put it off, the worse the situation gets and the harder it will be to address. Now is the time before winter kicks in. Stop with the excuses. We must try. 2 weeks ago, when I was out on the streets, I came across my Enrique. It literally shocked me what I saw, to the point of tears. He was attacked from behind while riding his bike. He was knocked to the ground, fell on his face, and broke his nose. His face was black and blue, nose was broke and swollen and crooked. I could actually feel his pain. I found my sweet, loving Enrique consoling me because I was so upset. The increasing attacks on my people is heart-wrenching. I feel partially responsible for this happening because I know we can do better and aren't. If Enrique had a safe place to be, this would never have happened. Then there's Angela, who had been treated and streeted. She got up from the sidewalk to come over to my car to look for a pair of shoes, and she started feeling faint. I grabbed her so she wouldn't hit the ground. I poured ice water down her back to prevent her from passing out. The girl should not have been released from the hospital until she was in better shape. Then there's JoJo, also was treated and streeted. She was still in her hospital pants when I came across her. She went to the hospital with a high fever and a prolapsed colon. In less than 24 hours, she's put into her wheelchair, pushed out to the bus stop with 102 fever, and left there to fend for herself. When I came across her, she looked horrible. I didn't think she'd make it through the night. I called chat, and thank God they got her into a recuperative bed. And today, I stopped off at a local park to check on an elderly couple of mine. They told me about an organized crime ring that hit the park. The ring dispersed around the park and communicated by phone. They surrounded my couple and took their cooler chests and bicycles. They told me that they take turns at night sleeping, keeping watch so they aren't attacked. They should not have to live like this. And once again, if this couple had a safe place to be, this wouldn't have happened. Again, if all these people had a safe place to be, where there was a watchful eye and resources for them, there never would have been these situations. What is it going to take to get the rest of the council members on board and to realize we have no other choice but to try? We have no choice but to try. Please join me on the streets of Modesto to see them from street level. Thank you.
Thank you. I do not see any hands raised online. Next in person, Arthur Fabella. Welcome.
Good evening, City Council and community members. I'm Arthur Fabella, resident of West Modesto, and I'm here in regards to the future of the municipal golf course and to introduce a concept. You can, I did give some handouts for you all. You can go ahead and take a look at it. So my concept is Sunset Village, a healthy community. And maybe we can even add a happy community, because a healthy community is a healthy community. I really do feel that there are very few citizens in Modesto that do not understand what's going on here. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity to change the stigma of West Modesto as the bad side of town, okay? There is an enormous economic opportunity to be had there at the parcel at the Muni Golf Course. This concept would preserve the integrity and the traditions of the Muni community and create future opportunities. To date, there's been no satisfactory proposals from the council or the city in regards to Muni. So maybe if you want to go and just take a look at the second page, so some of the highlights would be a park and ride. We all know about those, how important those are. 7 acres would be, actually 14 acres for commercial development, 7 for a major grocery store, like a Save-Mart, a Safeway, a Walmart. 7 acres for retail stores. 1.5 mile walking corridor, which by the way is used daily. Every single day people are out there. So, this is going to take a while, so in the future, we'll be talking about things such as daily uses, intermittent uses for the Muni parcel, economic benefits, the pandemic. You think the pandemic doesn't have something to do with that? It does, a lot. And we'll be covering all this in the future meetings. So, and also, we'll be covering the family here that I kind of dearly love, and I don't even know their names. I don't even know their names, but they're a special family, and so I look forward to talking in the future. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I do not see any hands raised at this time online. Markel Perkins. Right, he must have left. He left, and confirming again, no hands raised. All right, does anyone else wish to come forward regarding items not on the agenda?
Here's a clip of the news, and you won't have to go about future ones. Madam Mayor, council members, ladies and gentlemen, 2 things I've got more than that, but I want to reinforce what the woman who came before me just said. I watched that video, the 3 council members on there, and I was extremely impressed, at least by them. Unfortunately, I think some of us are dragging our heels. I mean, the problem has always been with this town is where we're going to put things. We could have solved this 4 years ago, but we chose not to. We kept kicking the can down the road, as she said. She was very accurate in that. And the other thing I took away, I mean, we need the parking, we need some version of Mo's, we need a place for them to sleep and be safe. But the other thing I took away from it is When your minds get together, the more ideas you can come up with, right? You can't get too many people. You get 3 people together and that's it about the same subject. But that's not necessarily true completely. You have an opportunity to have a pre-agenda meeting every single week. You have a meeting. You have a chance to sit down on a Monday with the entire staff that is going to answer any questions you have, with the public there too, and you can have that conversation because it's an agendized meeting. But for several years now, you've adamantly refused. And it's basically the 4 people that don't want to find a place or a safe place for people to sleep at night. You know, you make the decision. All you have to do is have that meeting. It went on for years in Modesto, but for some reason we don't want to have it anymore. Maybe we don't want to talk about our problems. Maybe you guys don't think that somebody else has a good idea. I mean, there's 7 of you up there. It shouldn't be a big deal. Very quickly, I'd like to talk about institutional memory because unfortunately in Modesto, we don't have a lot of it. Things come and go, and I'm sorry, Jeremiah, this isn't going to be a happy time. We've had some issues in the past. The NSP2 funds, remember that debacle? The SCAP funds, remember that debacle? Do you remember when the Center Plaza we were first signing the contract with them? Those are the numbers that were massaged. And when somebody asks me what a lapdog company is, it's a company you can get the answers from, and you can get them to say what you want them to say. That's a lapdog. I'm not talking about anything else. I'm just talking about our past. You know, here in Modesto, we had a Measure X where the people behind it, the Chamber of Commerce, actually paid a former police chief to stand in front of the Modestans and lie. Mike Lockbox Harden, the Bee broke that story. They double-checked it before they wrote it. But no, we just ignore it. We pretend like everything's going to get better. In the Public Works Department, when that got gutted that time, but you know what all those instances have? They all flow together. We had an in-house auditing firm, not an independent auditor. We had Moss Adams. And those are the numbers that were massaged, and we still have that terrible contract over there with the Center Plaza. You haven't done anything about it. We're losing over $900,000 a year at that. When we signed it in 2005, we were losing between $500,000 and $700,000 a year. You still haven't fixed it. I apologize for the time. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyone else wishing to come forward on public comment? I do not see anyone online, correct? All right. Anyone in person? I do not have any more blue cards. All right. Next on the agenda is consent items. An item may be removed from consent and discussed at the request of a member of the public or council member. Is there anyone on the council that would like a consent item removed for further discussion? Seeing none, is there anyone in the public that would like an item removed from consent for further discussion or comment? Confirming, are there any hands raised in Zoom? No. All right, will the city clerk please read the consent items?
Item 8, consider minutes from the August 22nd, 2023 council meeting. Item 9, consider calling for the holding of a primary municipal election to be held on March 5th, 2024 for the election of the mayor as required by the city charter of the City of Modesto, requesting the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors consolidate the City of Modesto primary municipal election, requesting the services of the Registrar of Voters Elections Division of the County of Stanislaus to conduct the election on behalf of the City of Modesto, and if necessary, the calling and giving notice of the holding of a runoff municipal election on November 5th, 2024 for said office, and a resolution adopting regulations for candidates for elective office pertaining to candidate statements submitted to the voters and an election to be held on Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. Item 10, consider approving the recommended budget adjustments to fiscal year 2022, 2023, and fiscal year 2023, 2024 annual operating and capital improvement program budgets, amending the position classification plan and position allocation for fiscal year 2023, 2024 as adopted in the operating budget. Item 11, consider approving the plans and specs for the Pallandale Avenue Pavement Rehabilitation Dale Road to Detroit Lane SPL 5059 project, accepting the bid and awarding a contract to Pavement Coatings Company out of Sacramento, California in the amount of $2,192,229 and authorizing the Director of Utilities to approve change orders up to the cumulative amount of $219,223. Item 12, consider approving the purchasing agreement for janitorial supplies to Central Sanitary Supply doing business as Brady IFS out of Las Vegas, Nevada for a total amount not to exceed $733,326 over 5 years. Item 13, consider approving the updates to the change order approval policy for the City of Modesto Capital Improvement Program projects. Item 14, consider a third amendment to the agreement with Employee Relations out of Glendale, California to conduct pre-employment background checks for a revised agreement, total amount not to exceed $64,900. Item 15, consider agreements for executive level recruitment services with Ralph Anderson and Associates out of Rockland, California, CPS HR Consulting Inc. out of Sacramento, California, GVP Ventures Inc., DBA, Bob Murray and Associates out of Roseville, California, Coffin Associates, a Gallagher Company out of Berkeley, California, and Naher and Associates out of Sacramento, California, in a total amount between all agreements and combined not to exceed $343,000 over 5 years. Item 16, consider approving a third amendment to the agreement with Lafayette and Kumagai LLP for legal services for a revised agreement, total amount not to exceed $545,000, and extending the term of the agreement to December 31st, 2025. Item 17, consider approving the amendments to the Equity Commission bylaws. Item 18, consider approving the First Amendment to the Tactical Flight Officer Training Agreement with Jeff Mooring for a revised total amount of $25,000. Item 19, consider approving the First Amendment for backflow prevention testing services to a revised total amount not to exceed $225,000. Item 20, consider approving an agreement with HDR Engineers, Inc. out of Folsom, California to complete assigned work and to gain regulatory compliance for the Carpenter Road landfill out of Modesto, California for an amount not to exceed $271,700 over a 5-year period plus $27,170 for additional services authorized by the city manager for a total amount not to exceed $298,870. Item 21, consider the award of bid and agreement for painting services to HB Restoration out of Rio Lindo, California at the Modesto City County Airport for an annual estimated amount of $50,000 and a total amount not to exceed $250,000 over 5 years. Item 22, consider accepting the plans and specs for the Empire Yosemite Boulevard Water Main Crossing Straighten and Replace project and awarding a construction contract to DSS Company, DBA Knife River Construction out of Stockton, and a total amount not to exceed $1,260,475. Item 23, consider approving a Fourth Amendment to the agreement with Brown and Caldwell out of Rancho Cordova, California for design and construction services for replacement well 226 in an amount of $54,863 for a revised agreement total not to exceed $554,224. Item 24, consider approving a First Amendment to the agreement with Envirogen Technologies, Inc. out of Rancho Cucamonga, California for the Grayson Nitrate Treatment System replacement to increase the agreement amount by $133,960 to a revised amount not to exceed $1,794,308. Item 25, consider approving an agreement with All Season Lawn Landscaping for landscape maintenance service at water wells and tank sites for a total amount not to exceed $450,000 over 5 years.
All right, may I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved by Councilmember Bavaro, seconded by Councilmember Wright. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Councilmember Scutia Brayton?
Aye.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Bavaro?
Aye.
And Mayor Zwollen?
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Next on the agenda is council comments and reports. Do I have any council members with comments and reports? Vice Mayor Ricky.
Thanks, Mayor. Today I want to thank our police chief, Chief Gillespie, for sending us our annual report for the Modesto Police Department this week. I'm really pleased with the numbers we've seen. Violent crime is down 17%. Overall property crime is down 10%. Crime overall is down 13%. Our blight abatement program picked up 400,000 pounds of garbage. Our Sky One plane assisted on 800 calls, 63 arrests, and 17 high-speed pursuits. And our chat team led unhoused people to a safe shelter 871 times. And what I'm seeing here is that I know we've got a lot of work to do still, but we're heading in the right direction, and our city's getting better. And I just appreciate the leadership in our police department, the job they're doing. I appreciate the support they're getting from our city manager, and just keep it up. Thanks.
Thank you. Online, Councilmember Scudia Brayton.
Thank you, Mayor. As was mentioned earlier, I am here in Washington, D.C. As a member of the San Joaquin Valley Regional Planning Agency Policy Council. I'm honored to be among other elected officials representing 8 counties, and we are all here advocating funding for Central Valley's various projects and initiatives. Also, as I'm pleased as members of the public accompanying me today are esteemed representatives from our Central Valley community. First, we have Supervisor Asa joining me. We have the Executive Director, Stanislaus Cotton, who is a Denmark Park. We also have Michael Zabala, who is the Executive Director for the South Joaquin Climate as well. We have Tricia Taylor, also Executive Director for Central Valley Club. So they are here as members of the public. So we kind of do good for the Central Valley and trying to represent best we can. I did so note Mr. Jim Costello's comment in regards to the unsheltered Bill of Rights, and I will be looking into that on behalf. In addition to the work we're doing in DC, I was delighted to participate in the retirement ceremony for previous Fire Chief Alan Prince, who I want to thank tremendously for his years of service and dedication to the city of Modesto. He will be sorely missed, and he's leaving huge shoes to fill. In addition to that ceremony, I was delighted to participate in the County Office of Education Leadership Academy, where I was accompanied by the mayor and Supervisor Manny Graywall in speaking to high school seniors. And it was delightful to see such amazing, talented young adults, well situated to be leaders and represent Modesto. Hopefully they'll go to school, come back and be active leaders in our community. If they are that, we are going to be well served. And when at the end of our presentation, we afforded an opportunity for Q&A. And we asked us any questions about our experience and how the positions we had. But one of them commented on the level of stress that they experienced at their age. And that was a poignant question, and I really appreciated that being addressed. And the entire panel addressed it in the sense that he recognized that it was a real issue of mental health for them, and it's an issue that they may have to contend with into adulthood. So we encourage them to be healthy, make the best choices they can, and if they needed to seek help, that they should. So again, it was a positive exchange of knowledge and information, and I really wish to includes my comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, you're welcome. David Wright, Councilman Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things. Number one, tonight, Modesto Nuts are in the playoffs. Their first game starts at 7:05. Hopefully, we could get out of here in 15 minutes. Ha, ha, ha. But anyway, I wish them luck. I think it's been a long time since they've been in the playoffs, and I think it's going to be a great thing. Also, too, I want to just remind the public that we do a lot for our homeless. We do have beds for them every night if they want to get out of the heat or out of the area. We do have Access Center, and then Salvation Army do have beds. So we do a lot here for our homeless. Starting in October, Care Court will start to help with the mentally challenged homeless people that we have that are have some real serious issues that really need help. So hopefully that will help in the area. And also too, I'm really disappointed in our cruise Cruisers, especially the lowrider cruisers this weekend, were out at a complex, disrespecting the property owners of that complex. Hopefully, we will work with the Modesto PD to see what we can do to keep that from happening again. So I'm hoping that we can resolve that issue and for everyone. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor. So I want to talk about the a program that's going to launch at the end of this week. It's the Rental Housing Safety Program. We are pleased as a city to announce the launch of this safety program. It's aimed at ensuring the safety and well-being of residents in rental properties throughout the city. This program aims to improve quality of rental housing in Modesto and promote a safe and healthy living environment for all tenants. The program is set to kick off this Friday, September 15th, and will require landlords to meet specific safety standards and obtain a safety certification for their rental properties. These standards include fire safety, electrical and plumbing systems integrity, system or structural soundness, and overall maintenance of properties. I am personally thrilled to see Modesto take a proactive step to address the safety concerns in our rental housing market. The Rental Housing Safety Program will help protect tenants from substandard living conditions and provide them with the peace of mind they deserve. And when we talk about tenants, I'm specifically referring to responsible tenants, not folks who bring issues, but folks who enter rental housing that have pre-existing issues. And the Rental Housing Safety Program is a collaborative effort between the City Council, tenant advocacy groups, and various community stakeholders throughout the city and the region. And working together, Modesto aims to create a thriving and safe rental housing market that benefits both tenants and property owners. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Any other council comments or reports? Oh, Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Today was a wonderful day going over to the Senior Center and where they had Senior Citizen Month, and they were doing line dancing, they were doing all kinds of festive things. It's an incredible place for seniors to go. If you don't want to know anything about it, and this is the first time you're hearing about it, it's on Bowdoin. I'm not sure the exact address, but on the corner of Bowdoin and Scenic. It is a thriving place for those who want to hang around some fun seniors, and we were able to honor Shannon, who had been there for 27 years total, but 22 years full-time, who works for Parks and Recs, and so it was a great time being there, celebrating that with them. Thank you, Mayor.
All right.
Along with Councilmember Wright, who decided not to go on the dance floor.
All right. Any other council member comments and reports? Seeing none at this time, does the city manager have any comments and reports?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I just want to make a couple of announcements. I'd like to congratulate Jessica Hill on her appointment to the Director of Community Economic Development. Also, Toby Wells on his appointment to the Director of Engineering Services. And I'd also like to introduce Kevin Wise, who will fill in as our interim fire chief upon the retirement of Chief Ernst. So congratulations to all involved. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for those announcements. Next on the agenda is hearings, item 26. Hearing to approve the City of Modesto's Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report for program year 2022-23. And we will have a staff report from Jessica Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. We are asking council to continue this item due to additional community outreach to be held prior to bringing it forward to council at our next council meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I will now ask for a motion to continue the item to September 26th, 2023.
Motion to approve.
All right. Motion by Councilmember Wright and second by Councilmember Escudi-Brayton. Before we finish that up, I want to clarify that whether we need to go to the public on this item.
There's no action being taken other than continuing, but if there are members of the public, Mayor, you could definitely open it up if you would like to.
All right.
But it's just continuing to the next
Okay.
time. They will have an opportunity to comment.
All right. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak regarding item 26? Confirming no one online and seeing no one in person, we have a motion from Councilmember Wright and a second from Councilmember Escutia-Brayton. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Escutia-Brayton.
Aye.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ricky.
Aye.
Councilmember Bavaro.
Aye.
And Mayor Zwallen.
Aye. Carries unanimously. Next is new business, item 27. Consider accepting a joint, excuse me. Am I doing something?
No, we're just waiting
All
for
right.
Councilman Williams to.
Okay, all right. We will take a 5-minute break. So we will resume at 7:01 p.m.
The ads? It's like so much detail.
Okay. All right. Because we already made the announcement that Councilmember Williams would be recusing himself from this item. So item 27, consider accepting a joint award for the City of Modesto and Visionary Home Builders of California Incorporated for a State of California's Affordable Housing and Sustainability Grant in the collective amount of $33,10,880 and award the city funding commitment in a total amount not to exceed $7 million and $200,000, that would be dollars, correct, on this item?
Correct.
In activity delivery for the development of 7th Street Village on the properties located on 7th Street between J Street and I Street. And we will have a staff report from Jessica Hill.
Great. Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Jessica Hill, Director of Community and Economic Development. I am very excited to be before you today for this item. So one of the City of Modesto and our Community Development Division's core initiatives is to encourage and fund the development of affordable housing. And so the City of Modesto receives funding each year, both from the federal and state government, to help support these efforts. So in December 2022, the city released a notice of funding availability to ensure that the city had a pipeline of projects to meet our various funding deadlines. One of those projects that were submitted was a project over on 7th Street. So the location of this project is 7th Street between I and J. The application was submitted by Visionary Home Builders. And it was for a mixed-use development and a first mixed-use development in downtown Modesto. The proposal included 79 units of a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments with commercial on the first floor to help serve households who are between 30 and 80% of the area median income. So a little bit more about the details. On the floor area, it will include a Head Start school, a leasing office, and some commercial office space. And it includes on-site amenities, including a community center, a cooling center, computer lab, and playgrounds. As I stated, it is a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments. So with the item that was brought for you earlier this year, the total project budget for the 7th Street Village was a $56 million project, and they included an ask from the city of $7 million in our affordable housing funding, as well as $967,000 in our capital facility fees deferrals. And what also we brought forward at this meeting was a different funding source called the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Grant. So a little bit more about the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Grant. Its goal is to help support affordable housing efforts and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And so in the 2023 NOFA, there was $750 million available, and the applications were due in early April 2023. So as part of our grant, the grant included not only just the affordable housing development, it also included transportation improvements. Some of those transportation improvements include bike and pedestrian improvements to new sidewalks downtown, as well as tying in the 9th Street bike path from the Virginia corridor down over to Skewers and then all the way to I Street. The improvements would actually then go north on I Street to help facilitate more bike lanes as well. It also includes some transportation improvements along bus route 21, an ACE train or a locomotive conversion, and some different supportive education for the residents of the proposed facility. So on March 14, 2023, the council did approve a $7 million funding commitment contingent on this other application that was jointly approved for the A6 award, or the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Grant. On August 31st of this year, the city received notification that they were fully funded in the amount of $33 million for the A6 award. So of this award, it includes $17,300,000 for the housing development, $11 million for sustainable transportation improvements, which includes the ACE train, the roads and sidewalks, and then just over $4 million for the transit-related amenities and housing programs, which includes the Route 21 improvements and the different education programs for the proposed residents and surrounding neighborhood. So if the council were to accept the award today, the next steps are visionary home builders would acquire the property in the tune of $1 million with the Modesto CDBG funds commitments. They would submit a tax credit application for the 4% tax credits in February 2024. And then following that, we anticipate if the TCAC award is received, the 7th Street project will be able to break ground tentatively by summer or fall 2024. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, does council have any questions of staff? Councilmember Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm glad we got this. There was a lot of fingers crossing and all the hocus pocus we have to do in order to get the funds, $33 million in order to do what we wanted to do. My understanding, there's going to be a basketball court too for our indoor basketball, correct?
I would have to defer to Carol on the indoor basketball court. I know there are some playgrounds included.
Okay.
I do believe there's indoor basketball courts, but Carol is prepared to come speak at the comment
Okay.
section as well. Are there any other questions before I
No,
bring
that's
Carol
it.
up? Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. We're so excited to be here. You know, there's such credibility for the city of Fresno and this partnership that we created, because this went bam, bam, and into, Modesto, into the state. And questions were asked because it's not only looking at HCD, but also the sustainable community dollars, and to come out with $33 million was a great win for the city of Modesto. And we know that the next step is we would probably be number 3 in the state out of all the applications that would be going in based on the points that we have established. We are continuing to fine-tune the project, and definitely there's a basketball court. It's not really going to be indoors. We've got some area outdoors where there's connectivity. And since we've already are building something very similar in Stockton, we can see how those play areas are being built out in a mid-rise building. So it's exciting. We're here to get it done, and we're hoping to be in construction next year.
Good. I think my question was in regards to, I'm concerned about teens, 13, 14-year-olds. They want to go to a playground, but if they have a basketball court or something that's more apt for them to be able to be around the home without going out and causing problems in the community and stuff.
Definitely part of the tax credit application is that we have to address 3 age groups. One is the 3 to 5, 10 to 12, and then our teenagers. Not only will we have a basketball court that will kind of help even the 10-year-olds to the teens, but we will also do a teen space. And it's really exciting what we were doing with these teen spaces. A lot of, we'll probably bring in some of the teens from the city of Modesto to help us design that space. But for an example, we had about 1,500 square foot in our last teen center. And when we brought in the kids, it was funny because the boys were shy and the girls were really excited, laughing and giggling. And the first round of their design was like a bedroom. But when we started to say, no, we need multi-use in that teen room, it was fabulous what they designed, and that's what I'm looking forward to, that teen space. They designed a music room which we padded some walls, and then we put piano, guitars, a recording set so that they could record music. And then we went out into another larger room. We had a movie area where they could watch movies, and then we had a gaming system, and then we had a study area where they could do their homework, and then there was open space where there was couches and chairs where they could sit and relax. And definitely when you're going up, you do want to create some space so kids can get out of the house, just to be away from the noise that may be in their home. So we're very excited about, using this concept in our team room for bringing kids to help design it. Because when I looked at it, I thought, oh, what do I know? I know kids like this, that they like certain things, but I really wanted it to be about the teenagers and what they liked. And so definitely we will create that space, and we'll see how the Stockton one fins out. They're working on it right now, but we plan to do the same thing here in Modesto. It's important to get them involved.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Next question, Councilmember Bavaro.
I have a question for Carol. Sorry for bringing you back like that.
No.
That's what my wife does when I start watching. Are you, is Visionary Home Builders a for-profit or nonprofit?
No, we are a nonprofit, a 501c3. We've been in the Central Valley for 40 years.
Okay, I'm not familiar a lot with nonprofits, so explain the tax credit and how that applies to a nonprofit.
First of all, tax credits are awarded to both for-profits and nonprofits. The for-profits probably get about 60% of the money that's allocated for tax credits, and the nonprofits probably get around 40%. That's by no magic number. It's just that the for-profits can put in a whole bunch of applications all at one time, and definitely the nonprofits put a few less because it's quite expensive to submit it. Now, in the tax credit realm, we won't be competing against the whole state. There is regions, and we will be applying in the Central Valley region of tax credits.
Okay.
It's both.
I'm going to have Jessica explain it in more detail for me.
Yes, actually, Tax Credit 101 is quite complicated, and there are places. If you come to our summit, they will be talking about tax
is the
credits.
Tax credits like property tax credits or revenue tax
No,
credits?
they are directly, the tax credit program is part of the IRS Section 42. So investors buy these tax credits, and almost dollar for dollar, they get the value of the money they put in. The money that we're competing for comes in as equity dollars. So there's not dollars that they'll ever get paid. They'll put in, 23 to $30 million. They won't get that back, but they will get that amount of money, if not more, in tax credits. So it's dollar for dollar on their income tax returns. So that's why you have these investors, such as the major banks are all investors. We've had Verizon in one of our projects. We've had Edison Capital. So there's that help.
I get it. I know.
Yeah, it's
I know
not.
what you're
It's
saying
a,
now.
it's
okay. I appreciate that.
Yes.
I get it. Thank you.
All right. Are there any further questions from council members?
I do have a question, if it's okay to speak this time.
Sure.
Thank you. So, just absolutely amazing. Modesto is just what a great place to spend time for this project. So, summer 2024, development construction is anticipated to take what, 1 or 2 years?
We're thinking about 2 years, yes.
years. What would the application process look like and when would it start for tenancy?
For tenant selection, it usually gets started, I would say, 6 to 9 months before the construction's completed. And then Carol does have a group on hand, or Visionary Home Builders does, that actually goes through the tenant selection process.
So will the City of Modesto be advertising that process and facilitating connecting someone who's interested and perhaps might be qualified?
Absolutely. We will partner with Visionary Home Builders to ensure that we are promoting that information to our residents as well.
Do we have any of that information at the time on our website right now?
Regarding people, since we haven't got all of the funding sources associated with the project, I think we want to make sure we get the project fully funded, a groundbreaking, and then we'll ensure that we work very closely with Visionary Home Builders to get this on our website.
So sometime in fall of 2024?
Correct.
The public would perhaps expect to see something on our website?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Bavaro.
Yes, one last question. Last time we had this discussion, I think it was in March, the issue I brought up was about the credit reporting from, the people that are applying. And I was under the impression that the credit reports, if a person has not a very strong credit rating, that's not going to be the primary reason for declining somebody, that there's other factors that are going to be built into that? Because I would have to assume that, their FICO scores are not going to be up in the 800s, but maybe around the 650, 700.
So there's a couple of things, and I mean, we can get into the tenant selection policies as we get closer and maybe get fully funded. However, there are home buyer education and rental education that is provided as part of this grant to help people who have money management concerns or credit counseling that is going to be offered to the community and those residents as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions from council members? All right, seeing none at this time, I'll open this up to the public. Are there any members of the public that would like to come forward regarding item 27? Please step up to the podium. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Zaf, and I just have a question about this project. I don't have a problem with the project. Any project can help the city, help poor people, great. But I think the city give too many projects to non-profit organization. Money easy come, easy go. And I'm talking about the project on North 9th Street that was for $23.5 million. And I tell you what, if you put it for bid, for the private industry, it may cost half. Nobody would buy that property for $6.7 million back then. Nobody. And I'm amazed how the money just, you probably could help more people with $10 more million from that project, at least. And I don't know, I don't have the numbers like you, but I know a little bit about real estate, and I know what property was. And that property, $6.7 million, doesn't sound right. And I think it's enough to just throw money away, non-profit organization, it sounds right, great. But I tell you what, those non-profit organizations, not many of them that actually it's non-profit, that people work for nothing. Those organizations create a lot of jobs, friends bring friends, and not everybody, but you look at the numbers in a project on North 9th Street. I don't believe that property was worth 6.7, and I don't believe that to build pretty much like 52 units motel, $23.5 million. It's something sounds not right. And I think you guys need to check more more into it, to get numbers, to question those people, not just to let them give you numbers and okay, and everything is good, you know. It's ridiculous when non-profit organizations ask the private people, you know, for help, to be understanding, and we need your help, we do this, we do that. And then nobody cares, just $50 million here, $23 million there. I wonder if you put a bid on the North 9th Street project, how much money it's going to cost to build that project. I don't have no idea, but I just wonder, did somebody thought about it to put it out for bid? Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other members of the public that would like to come forward regarding item 27? Confirming there's no one online. All right, I will close public comments and ask council for further comments. Vice Mayor Ricky.
Thanks, Mayor. This is a really great project. I want to thank Visionary Home Builders, and I also want to give our staff huge kudos for their dedication and work on this project. When I got elected, I asked staff, I don't know if you remember, but I said, like, there's one thing I want you to do. If there's one thing you can do, it's like get a development like this in downtown, and here it is. And I'm blown away. It's excellent work. But I also wanted to address the money question because I hear this one a lot, and I've been hearing it on my social media, and I think that it's really important to understand that this money comes from above. It comes from the state to us, and it comes from the state to us with a whole list of requirements of how the money is spent. So like the city doesn't get to choose the requirements of how the stuff is built. We are given a rubric of requirements if we take the money, and then we have to spend it in that way, right? And so I understand the frustration because it does seem like it's an awful lot of money, because it is. But this entity does not control the issue that you're talking about. So I just want to make sure you understand that. So like if you have an issue with the requirements the state and the federal government are putting on us to make these projects happen, we need to talk to our state representatives and our federal representatives who are actually the ones that choose how the money is spent. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments from council members? I'll just make one comment that one of the components of this that I think will have really great effects for the future of people that live there, and also the impact on our community regarding the connection with the Virginia Trail, which eventually will go all the way to Bangs Avenue, so that people will have access locally on a walking trail or bike trail, and also to the train, which if you consider that when the ACE train starts coming more often, that means access to Southern California, the Bay Area, to Sacramento, that will be right there for people that live to have that sort of transportation. It will be multimodal transportation. And it all connects also with the river all the way to the airport. So there's this huge connection that I think is in the future. As someone said, Sue, it might be for me a legacy project, not for my legacy, believe me, not for me, but it may take that long in years, but young people that are here or hearing this will really benefit from this down the road. So I'm really excited about that. All right, I have quite a long resolution, 4 different resolutions to read before I call for a motion. This is a resolution accepting the award from the joint submission between the City of Modesto and Visionary Home Builders of California, Incorporated, for a State of California's Affordable Housing and Sustainability Program in an amount of $33,010,880 for the development of 7th Street Village on the properties located on 7th Street between J Street and I Street, as well as any grant-required transportation improvements as outlined in the grant application, and authorizing the city manager or his designee to negotiate and execute an agreement with Visionary Home Builders Incorporated and any other documents related to the execution of award agreements. A resolution amending the fiscal year 2023-2024 multi-year budget for the 7th Street Project Fund with permanent local housing allocation funds, community development block grant funds, and home investment partnership funds for the development of the 7th Street Affordable Housing Project, totaling $7 million and $200,000 for activity delivery costs, and budgeting the necessary transfers and authorizing the city manager or his designee to take the necessary steps to implement the provisions in this resolution. A resolution approving a community development block grant funded loan in a total amount not to exceed $2 million at 3% simple interest for 55 years to begin accrual after issuance of certificate of occupancy for the acquisition and off-site improvements of 7th Street Village. A resolution authorizing the city manager or his designee to negotiate final agreements with Visionary Home Builders Incorporated for a home investment partnership funded loan in the amount not to exceed $3,509,216 and a permanent local housing allocation funded loan in the amount not to exceed $1,490,784 with final agreements returning for council consideration and approval for the development of 7th Street Village. May I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Ricky and a second by Councilmember Wright. Excuse me. Motion by Councilmember Alvarez and a second by Councilmember Wright. And will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Gutierrez.
Aye.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ricky.
Aye.
Councilmember Bavaro.
Aye.
And Mayor Zwallen.
Aye. So it carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Next is item 28. Consider approving the appointment of Colleen Rosillas as city auditor and a professional services agreement with Moss Adams LLP, Stockton, California, to provide auditing services for an annual amount not to exceed $250,000 per year. And we will have a staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Christina Alger, Director of Human Resources. So just a little background on this item. So in 2008, Measure M was passed by the voters. This measure amended the charter to create more transparency and increase oversight by the council or the mayor and council in matters related to city operations. Measure M created the Office of the City Auditor. The charter outlines the duties and responsibilities of the city auditor to include various financial, operational, and performance audits. Audits should look for compliance with applicable laws and regulations, and methods for accounting methods for acquiring and expending resources, among other things. The charter requires all audits to be performed using recognized government auditing standards. Section 901.1, Section H, outlines the activities required pertaining to auditing schedules. It requires the city auditor to submit a 1 to 5 year plan each fiscal year. This plan must be presented to the audit committee and council for approval. All written reports must include the background, findings, and recommendations. Section 902.2 created the audit committee. This standing committee advises council on items related to the work of the city auditor. They review plans, provide suggestions, and comments. This committee also consults with the city auditor on the city auditor's activities and findings. The city auditor's office has historically been held by both individuals and firms over the years, with the last time being vacated in 2018. A recruitment was conducted but was unsuccessful. In 2019, a charter review committee was composed to review the charter and recommend changes. This process was stalled due to the pandemic, but was finally completed in 2022. Items were placed on the ballot, including revisions to the experience and education requirements for the city auditor position to assist in attracting more candidates, and a revision to the audit committee to add 2 public members to the 3 original members that included the mayor and 2 council members. 2 public members have been appointed, and the city will be working towards scheduling an audit committee as soon as possible. So in preparation to fill the office, as the Charter Review Committee came to a close, the city chose to hire a firm to perform a risk assessment. This had been last done in 2015. The risk assessment reviews all city operations and determines priorities for audits. We received 5 responsible proposals, and a committee reviewed the proposals and determined Schoberg Evanshank Consulting was our best choice. The city wanted to have a review of the overall health of the operations and have an assessment that the new city auditor could use to start with. So discussion on this item. The 2023 search. So at the direction of council, the city began a search in 2023. The search included a national executive recruitment through a professional recruitment firm and a request for proposals from possible firms. These 2 processes ran simultaneously. We received 4 qualified candidates and 3 responsive firms. 1 candidate removed themselves from consideration, and all others, both individuals and firms, were interviewed. So I bring this item to you tonight to consider appointing Colleen Rosillas as our city auditor. She has 18 years of experience advising local, state, and tribal governments in effective governance, has provided extensive internal audit and risk assessment services, and Master of Science in Public Policy and Management. I would like to take a moment right now to invite Colleen up to the podium to introduce herself.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Colleen Rosillas. I'm a partner with Moss Adams. I'm happy to be here and answer any questions you may have. Okay.
All right. So the fiscal impact of this item, the impact of the agreement would not exceed $250,000 annually, and these funds would come out of our current budget. So the staff recommendation tonight is a resolution approving the appointment of Colleen Rosillas as city auditor and approving an agreement for auditing services between the City of Modesto and Moss Adams, LLP of Stockton, California, for an amount not to exceed $250,000 annually, and authorizing the mayor or her designee to execute the agreement. And so with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, thank you for that presentation, and welcome, Colleen, this evening. Does council have any questions of staff? We have Council Member Bavaro.
Thank you, Mayor. The $250,000 annual fee for services, that also includes additional staff or other experts in your firm? That's not an additional cost, is it?
Do you want to answer that?
Yeah. So our work will be done on a project basis. We'll submit an annual work plan within that budget to the audit committee. That includes all of the services that we would provide to you. If the audit committee and council want additional services, great, but that includes full staffing on all of those projects as well.
So what does that mean?
That's an all-inclusive annual cost.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor. Colleen, where would you be located primarily, like in your residency, and then how often would you be at City Hall?
Yeah, so I live in Seattle. I travel just about every week, and most of my clients are in California, so I'm actually in California every week this month. So being on site is part of the job and something that everyone does. I will be on site as much as the city wants me to be, and same goes for the members of our team.
And I would imagine the Zoom land, you're obviously right, accessible through that route as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good to hear. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for staff. So on our audit committee, have we always had an audit committee?
So the audit committee was actually created with a Measure M. So that was when it was created. So we've had it since 2008.
So now we have an oversight audit committee that will oversee the auditor.
Yeah, so the audit committee and the office of the city auditor were created at the same time. With this amendment that we just recently did, we augmented both of those. And so it added 2 public members to the audit committee. It used to be just the mayor and 2 council members, but now there are 2 public members as part of the audit committee. But it's been running ever since we've had a city auditor.
And we've already chosen the 2 audit
Correct.
members, haven't we? Yes. Okay, thank you.
All right. Vice Mayor Ricky.
A couple questions. Number one, so we're setting aside a budget of $250,000. Christina, can you tell me what the budget would have been if we had just had our own audit department and we hadn't farmed it out?
So the, did you want to answer that?
I don't have the exact dollar, but right now, the way it is budgeted for fiscal year 23-24, I want to say it's somewhere in the $550,000 range. That would include 1 auditor, 2 additional staff people, and then all our ISFs and other charges.
Right. Yeah. So I knew it was more. So I'm just concerned, and I think we talked about this earlier, but I'm concerned about the spending not being enough. I feel like we have systems that need to be looked at closely, so I'm hopeful that we have the ability to adjust these numbers because I really think we've got some needs.
Yes, and so we absolutely have the ability to come back to council and adjust those numbers if you see the need to do that. I think once they come up with an audit plan, we'll have a better idea of what that will look like.
And I guess the other question I have is I'm just confused about how, so the auditor is a charter member.
Correct.
So it answers to the council, and yet I'm just confused about how the relationship between the council and the auditor somehow runs through the committee. How does that work?
The audit committee?
Yeah. How does the relationship actually work then?
That's a good question. Do you want to add to that, Joe?
Jose, were you going to answer?
Yeah, I can. And maybe I could answer that, Vice Mayor. The audit committee actually, and it's in your charter, and that's part of section 902.2. And part of the duties of the audit committee is to advise the city council on items related to work of the city auditor and the city's financial statement audits, amongst other duties that the audit committee does have. So the idea would be that the auditor would be going to the audit committees, presenting a plan, and the audit committee would end up having also recommendations that would come to the council for example, additional audits, reviewing the plans. Usually what we had with audits is they would go to the audit committee first for the audit committee to review them, and then they would be coming to the council. But that plan is developed as pursuant to the charter with working with the audit committee, which has the members of the public as well. And the charter does have the auditor obviously comes with, the auditor would be making or presenting their proposed list of audits and have that kind of that ability to go to the audit committee to discuss. If that answered your question.
I'm still confused, but we can talk about it later. Thanks.
All right. The question I have is, and maybe our city attorney can respond to this also, regarding Measure G that the voters approved in the last election. I know primarily one of the changes that we approved was adding the 2 members of the public, community members, to serve on the audit committee. Were there any other highlights? I'm just asking for a reminder of any other highlights in Measure G that the voters voted to approve to make these changes.
And Mayor, if you recall, the highlights were also the qualifications for the city auditor. And I was pulling up the actual audit committee and auditor language that we ended up putting in Measure G. But so there were other qualifications. There were specific qualifications related to the city auditor shall possess adequate professional proficiency for the job demonstrated by relevant certifications such as Certified Internal Auditor, CIA, Certified Public Accountant, CPA, or Chartered Accountant, CA, or have an advanced degree and at least 5 years of experience in government auditing, evaluation, or analysis. That was done also in order to expand, get more, have more qualifications there, and I think to also get more of a candidate pool was the explanation by the charter committee when they were doing this. There were also requirements related to the starting of recruitment, which that's what we did here when it was reported out that both in-house and firms were going to get recruited for the position for the council to consider. There were also items related to funding audit schedule, and that's where I think Christina mentioned at the beginning of each fiscal year, the auditor shall submit 1 to 5 year audit schedules to the audit committee and council for review and comment. The schedule shall include the proposed plan and the rationale for the selections for auditing departments, offices, boards, activities, subcontractors, and agencies for the period. This schedule may be amended after review of the audit committee and council, but the auditor shall have the authority to select the audit plan. Maybe that also answers your question, Vice Mayor, regarding the relationship between the audit committee. There's also requirements regarding reports, reporting of irregularities. There was a section in there regarding the auditor reporting of irregularities. If during an audit, the auditor becomes aware of abuse or illegal acts or indications of such acts that could affect the city, the auditor shall report the irregularities to the audit committee or appropriate law enforcement authorities as appropriate. That was put in there. And then the audit committee had the purposes and duties, which we just kind of talked about, but that's for the audit committee. So we kind of added more duties and also added the members, as I mentioned, the public members. Sorry, a little long-winded there.
That's all right. It's a good review for me, too. That's what I needed. Thank you. Any other questions from council members at this time? All right, we will open this up to members of the public to come forward regarding this item.
Guessing I don't have to stand in line. I don't see the others. No offense. I didn't say this before, so Emerson Drake, longtime Modesto resident. I apologize to the city clerk for that. Yeah, before you kick my time on, if you would, some of that conversation I couldn't hear real well. I'm just asking for responses. So the $250,000 basically goes to her, and there's I don't see anything else. You talked about $500,000. I couldn't hear the numbers. What else are we going to spend there? I mean, if she can't do it all, she's only going to be part-time.
Up to $250,000.
Up to 200. So there's a schedule there on how many hours she puts in, because I haven't seen that. It wasn't online. You know, when we talk about the city attorney's office, we have a regimented amount of money for each individual act that they do, basically. The other from the paralegal on down, anything their office does. And I'm not criticizing that, but I don't see that here. I don't hear that here. It's like, okay, we'll go forward and then we'll throw some money at them and everybody will be happy. You know, I'll be the first to say it. I wasn't thrilled because I was at Martin Luther King's, the meeting house. I'm not really sure what that's called. When we had this 3-hour presentation by several different auditors trying to tell us or suggest to us which was best, and you got a chance. Of course, I don't think any of you were there. I don't know that was recorded if you even had a chance to hear it, because it was a very impressive presentation. You had 3 different kinds of auditors, 3 different styles from different cities. I thought it was real impressive. None of them ended up with what we got. I think the people are going to go, what the heck happened? So you're telling me up to $250,000, but we don't know how she's going to bill us for that. I mean, I'm just looking. If I told you I'm going to charge you up to $250,000, I don't tell you how much I'm going to spend cutting your grass, you're going to want to know. So I don't hear any numbers about that. I don't hear any numbers because she's going to need additional help. We know that. I'm not saying we shouldn't spend more money, but when it's carte blanche or no card at all, I don't know how to explain that. I don't understand it. Are you guys signing on for whatever they send you for a bill up to $250? Or they're going to come back and make a presentation? That doesn't make sense to me. I'm just asking you, are you willing to sign? Because if you are, I want to do business with you. No offense. It's open. I'm really not trying to be overly funny. I'm trying to make a point that I don't see that we're talking business here. I have yet to see you enter into a contract that isn't more detailed than this one, especially the city attorney's contract. I mean, he's the outside contractor. You go through that, you know where that money's coming from. You know where it's going, and you know what you're spending it on. But each one of you are telling me right now, you don't know how she's going to bill you. You don't know what else it's going to cost. And the end, it's wide open on the end. That's what you're telling me. Can we all agree on that? No hands are raised. I didn't think I'd get any. Everybody keep your hands down if you agree. I would like, yes. Hey, it's funny, and I admit that, but you got to get a smile because you're telling me you're going to be billed and you don't know how much or why. And that's a fact. I just asked for a couple more seconds because I did, when I'm asking for information that we really couldn't hear. She has a very weak or soft voice. And when I listened to the city attorney's numbers, I guess I was in awe that we're going to actually spend money that we don't know how much we're going to get charged for. Now, all I'm asking you to do is come back with a financial plan. I don't think that's being unreasonable. If you can tell me what you're going to accept her billing for and how much and what she does to earn it, okay. But you can't tell me that. And I can't believe we got to this position without you knowing that. Who's responsible for negotiating this contract? The city attorney does the city manager's contract. I'm not sure who does the city attorney's contract. I don't understand this. This is financially unreasonable. Okay, I've run over. I do apologize for that. But again, I'll point out that none of you can tell me. I think we ought to delay this for a couple of weeks, and you come back to me at the next meeting, and you tell us how you're going to spend our money. I don't think that's unreasonable. I think that's being financially responsible. I'm not going to ask for a raise of hands again. Have any comment to that, Mayor?
I'm confident that we will move forward appropriately.
Okay.
Thank you for your comments.
And thank you for your response.
All right.
Mayor, if I may make a comment, or would you like to finish public comment first with everybody?
Sure, I'll finish public comment. Next online is Jenny.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council, and Rosa in Washington, D.C. I'm a little jealous of you being there. I always was there. It's a good time. I'm glad to see that we finally came to some conclusion on the auditor. We had Moss Adams for the 9 years that I was there. I don't think that their bill ever went over more than $220,000. I may be wrong, but they always did a good job. I'm sure that they appointed someone who we are going to be very happy with. They always gave us a plan the year, so I'm really glad to see that we decided to go with an auditor from in a group. And like I said, we had Moss Adams for the 9 years that I was there. They did a wonderful job. We got a report every month at auditors meeting from them regarding the projects they were having. So I'm really pleased to see, I can kind of see where people can kind of get confused about the amount that it's going to cost us. It's up to $250,000. If more, like they said, they can always come back to the city council, but they did a wonderful job. As far as I'm concerned, we were always informed by them of all the audits they were doing, and they let us know a year in advance. So that's all I have to say. I hope other people feel good about this, and I hope the city council feels good about this, because actually it is saving us money because we don't have to have full-time excess personnel like an executive for her, or that's all included. So that's something that the city doesn't have to pay for. So I think it's really good, and I hope that the city council agrees on it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other members of the public that would like to address this item? I do not see anyone in person, confirming that there's no one online. All right, thank you. And our city attorney had a comment to make.
And I know I could go ahead and have Christina or Colleen kind of also answer and provide more details, but both the agreement and the scope of work attached do have hourly rates, and that's how the city will be getting billed. It does state it's $225 per hour, and then the cap is the up to $250,000. The scope of work that's attached goes through, and maybe that's where Christina, you or could provide more information. But the work plan does have different phases of the startup management, actually looking into it, the fact finding, the presentations that it will provide to the audit committee and the council, the analysis phase, and I think there's a phase 4 reporting. So it goes through kind of what the program entails of being the city auditor as a charter officer for the city. And the point that was made earlier is through work with the audit committee, the suggestions or the recommendations by the auditor, additional things may be added. Given that work with the audit committee and with the council at that point, I'm sure that as a consultant, they would be looking at it and saying, okay, well, if you want X amount of audits, potentially there's more, as Vice Mayor mentioned, then the number would be looked at, and you may have a contract amendment before you. But right now, both the agreement and the scope of work, which is attached to that agreement, it's online and part of your packet, does have, again, $225 per hour, and then the maximum amount right now as drafted is $250,000, and that was through the recommendation of Moss Adams in looking at typically what audit programs as far as for city auditor costs ranging from $100,000 to $300,000 under this model.
All right, thank you. Now I will go to council for further comments. Vice Mayor Ricky.
Yeah, just to add to what City Attorney just said, I think the reason why I'm concerned about the budgets is because when you look at different departments, like if you want to do a financial audit of the police department, which is like a 50+ million department, it's going to cost more hours to go through all those transactions than it would be to do a financial audit of the forestry department. So like there's going to be a different hour outlay for each, depending on what the audit committee decides to point them. So I think it's hard to say what the budgets are going to be before the audit committee decides what they're going to audit. And I think that's realistic, and I think that's good. We should have the freedom to decide which departments we want to look at. I think that's important and healthy. And I'm excited to work with Colleen and Moss Adams, and I think we're going to make our city better. So.
All right, thank you. Any other council members with comments at this time? I don't see any names on the screen. All right, Councilmember Bavaro.
Yes, at $225 billing hour fee, that's going to provide the city of Modesto well over 1,100 hours of service. So that's like about 25 hours a week. So I don't know if that answers some of the questions, but it answers my question. And I think that if we find something that's not so good, we need to increase that $250,000 and come back to the council. It's that simple. But we're just not going to write, I don't think we're going to write her a check. I think the check goes to her firm. okay? Unless she has something going on part-time here, so, okay.
All right, thank you. My only comment is I think this is really an exciting time because this is a charter officer. So this is one of the 4 positions that the city council is responsible for. So I'm really looking forward to this process that we will go through. The thing that is probably the most exciting about it is that this charter review committee worked for over 2 years. This is responsible community members that engaged in the process to bring to the council their suggestions, which we took very seriously in workshops, and were able to put it on the ballot in November of 2023. And immediately after the voters approved Measure G, we started the process of trying to find our next city auditor. So I really want to once again thank the Charter Review Committee that worked volunteer hours, many hours over years to bring that forward, and for the voters of Modesto for supporting it. And then here we are tonight. And the reason I responded the way I did to the questions that were asked is all of the information is online in our agenda packet. It's laid out, and I appreciate our city attorney for pulling that up and reviewing it. We operate as a transparent council. We abide by the law, and goodness, this is for the auditor, who is the person that will be making sure that we do things the way they are to be done and legally. So I'm really excited for this, and those are my comments. All right, we have a resolution approving the appointment of Colleen Rosillas as city auditor and approving an agreement for auditing services between the City of Modesto and Moss Adams LLP, Stockton, California, for an amount not to exceed $250,000 annually, and authorizing the mayor or her designee to execute the agreement. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Wright, second by Vice Mayor Ricky. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Scutier-Brayton.
Aye.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ricky.
Aye.
Councilmember Bavaro.
Aye.
And Mayor Zwalin.
Aye. The motion carries unanimously. Welcome. Are there any matters too late for the agenda? Seeing none, I am calling this meeting of the City Council to be adjourned.